Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology who will be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, episode number 337, with Joe Abraham of Intellicampus. If you followed along from last week's episode talking about transfer students' experiences, that is something I've always been really curious about kind of how that works and how it can work better. Something that I love talking about that really just embodies the kind of growth and evolution of institutions of higher learning as they are building up their tech stacks to be more interoperable and eliminate system and data fragmentation as they're going through transformation. Just really need to be thinking about this work, and certainly now as AI can kind of plug into the whole process, better serving any of the various AI tools that an institution may be implementing. So definitely a really important, timely conversation. I hope folks enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Episode number 337 with Joe Abraham. There are so many great organizations in the higher ed tech space doing really just interesting, intricate, diverse work in our space. I'm always excited to learn more about them myself, their point of view on what's happening. And the topic for today, system data fragmentation. How can we get things in a better place as folks in this space are navigating, thinking through their digital strategy and how they can optimize for harnessing the full potential of AI and all of their sort of pieces of their tech stack. So we will start as we always do, though, with our guest. Joe, if you want to briefly introduce yourself and your professional background, then we'll talk more about the work that you do and some recent writing that you did for an Inside Higher Ed article.
Yeah, most recently I served as a managing partner for a higher education consulting firm here in the United States. Our clients were the large community college systems like the Miami-Dade system, the Maricopa system, some R1s like Hopkins, the whole gamut of firms. We were primarily leading them through technology change. They were either trying to get more life out of their student information system or change their student information system, and there's all the work that goes into that. Our firm was acquired earlier this year by Core Education, but it was during the gauntlet of working inside those schools over the last 5-6 years that Intellicampus, this whole project, was born. It was born out of the frustration we were seeing because it didn't matter if it was a community college or an R1 in a rural area or in the biggest cities in the country. There were a couple common themes that were bubbling up over and over again. Prior to that, I've been a serial entrepreneur. I'm a problem solver at heart, so found the next problem to solve.
Yeah, in a certain way, a lot of people who are entrepreneurial by nature, they're kind of scratching their own itch, or they say, hey, I've heard this enough, and now I just kind of want to tackle it yourself. So, but yeah, just in case folks aren't aware, I feel like I've heard of Intellicampus, just trying to be as plugged in as I can be to the higher ed tech space here. But for my own benefit, certainly, but also for our audience, if you just want to kind of briefly summarize the work that Intellicampus does.
Yeah, think of it as the layer that sits above all your legacy systems, SIS, LMS, CRM, you name them, right? There's typical institution has 80 to 100 plus systems that are in some way student facing. It sits above them, moves all that data that doesn't know each other, doesn't speak each other's language, gives it a common data language, a data model, an ontology, so that the nouns and the verbs of higher ed, like a professor in a course, in a class, in a section, all start to mean something and bring it together. Because we found that only then can AI do what it does best. When we would take AI originally and put it right on top of an SIS or put it into Canvas or put it here or there, it really struggled to reason, at least in a way that didn't have huge compute cost and where a school would go broke with tokens being used up. And so we said there has to be a better way. And so then we discovered graph technology and how you could take data and graph it. And that's what AI needs. The reason Amazon is able to do amazing stuff with you, the reason Google is able to do amazing stuff with you is because of graph technology, and higher ed hasn't had it. So some combination of those things is really what we do. And then schools can build all the AI agents they want, because then they're building it on a safe, governed foundation with one source of truth, rather than 17 different sources of truth, thousands of agents, and all kinds of security and governance issues along the way.
I'm a very non-technical person myself, but
Yeah.
that may be music to people's ears. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I know about that. That's like cool.
You think about it, right? At every institution, every department's building their bots right now, right? I got a bot, I got an AI agent, I've got a tool, and it's great because the innovation's happening and it's awesome. The problem is if you're the IT office or if you're the president, those are all opportunities for hackers to get in and do really bad things. And all those little agents that have been built one off don't know how to talk to each other. So it's just this proliferation of foreign language speaking things that don't know each other. And what we're all looking for is a unified student experience, right? So how do you get there if everything's running in 17 different directions, speaking 100 different languages? It can't be done. So we're looking to unify that.
Yeah, and I guess a couple of things that come to mind is like, higher ed, and rightfully uses a lot of tools that were not like tailor-made for a higher ed context. So even just on that kind of minutia of like, terminology that they use, sometimes I know institutions just have to like conform to that like generic terminology or functionality and all that.
Customer ID, and we don't have customers in higher ed; we have students, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably like the most common one. But the idea that like a lot of tools just weren't built, I feel, with the intent and purpose to have like greater interoperability. Some I think were maybe we just are a thing that plugs into your LMS or something.
Right.
They had to have been built like that was their primary purpose. Otherwise, it's hey, we're really great this, that, the other, and that wasn't really much of a major focus. But it really does feel like it is like a thing of the moment, really needing to reckon with a myriad of tools that a single institution would be using, and how can they harness the full potential of all these, or even find ways that they could maybe condense, streamline, and distill down where it's okay, what do we actually really need to use, and what could maybe be better served by using fewer platforms or whatever else, or just having them work better together. So I do think that's just like an interesting just paradigm shift that I've observed, but I really appreciate because it is just a really exciting moment to capitalize on all these investments that institutions are making into these amazing digital platforms for their operations, for their student experience, for teaching and learning, and just across the whole board. One thing that we want to explore with you, though, is you recently contributed to a Inside Higher Ed article around AI predictions for 2026. You spoke about system fragmentation, what spurred that prediction, and really this will be maybe just diving in a little bit more in depth with what you were setting the stage with in terms of like how you came to this work, the work you're doing currently. Just gonna just get a little bit deeper and grounding it in the Inside Higher Ed article.
Yeah, if we can look at it from a couple different angles, right? If you look at it from the CFO's office, system fragmentation is an issue because every one of those systems is another cost, right? $50,000 for this, $100,000 for that, 400 grand for this. We did the math at some of our schools at minimum $1 million a year. Some of our larger schools are spending upwards of $3 million a year in just student-facing SaaS. So you start doing the math, the financial officer cares about system sprawl and starts to ask the question that you were hinting to is how much of this do we really need and how much of it got purchased on a whim? Then you look at it from the technology officer's perspective and it's, my gosh, that's a lot of technical debt we're building up. My staff is already underwater. They don't know how to manage all these systems. So I've got all these consultants coming in just to keep us afloat. Do we really need to have 80 to 100 different systems? And now all of them want to put AI on top. That proliferation concerns me as a technical officer. And then from the president's perspective, most of our presidents care deeply about student experience, student outcomes. And you got students logging in and out of all these systems, staff logging in and out of all these systems. The inefficiency of that and the frustration of that starts to add up. So that's the kind of the compounded problem with fragmentation. So then as we look at AI, everyone's wondering, can't this make things better? There's a potential for it to become worse because if we just put AI on top of all these systems, we've just proliferated the problem. But there is a vision to kind of unify because AI prefers to be looking at one body of data, a governed place where it can be constrained to not just LLM its way to answers that are made up, but given policy constraints, given constraints of who the student is and what the situation is. So that's the mission we're on with our schools is to say, yes, there's actually a way to take the data that sit in these systems of record where they belong. They shouldn't be moved out of there. A lot of schools went with kind of a data warehouse strategy a few years ago. Well, hey, we'll build a data lake. The data lake will bring it all together. Good, it's a great start, but all it did was take lines and rows from relational databases and put them in one big lake full of lines and rows. and relational database content. So AI still struggles to reason with it. You can run reports, you can do a little analytics on data lake stuff, but you can't get AI to reason at scale. So there's a few items missing. And so that we are coming in to say, whether you have a data lake or not, whether you have a warehouse or not, or whether we're going direct to the systems you have, there's a couple pieces of the puzzle to put in: ontology, graph technology, smart data fabric that understands higher ed data. And suddenly you have the kind of the magic engine on which AI can thrive. Now you can have student workers, literally student workers, building AI agents in 2 days, because all they have to do is prompt the agent to go to that data source rather than prompting an agent to understand what is a professor, what is a student, and have that compute power of every single transaction beating on your old databases. The goal is, how do we take this moment? I'm glad you called it that. How do we take this moment in time and, for the financial officer, reduce cost, give them a strategy where over the next 3 years, they can divest of most of their SaaS because AI reasoning starts to take it over? How do you help the technology officer reduce the pressure to maintain all these systems and bring it closer and closer to one or two main systems and one governed set of data to do all the AI from? And then for the president, for the provost, for the functional leaders who care about student success, how do we give a student a single pane of glass where they can make their request, whether their dorm room window is broken or they want to drop a class or whether they want to change their major? It's all orchestrated behind the scenes, just like my Uber app orchestrates a bunch of things using hundreds of systems. But I have a single pane of glass. It's absolutely possible. We've proven it. And that's our vision for the industry.
Yeah, it's a bold vision, a promising vision, and positive one, and a necessary one, really. And I think, again, like this moment, because I guess, a couple of different things. I think it is, the acknowledgement of the more just random kind of nuts and bolts and add-ons and this, that, the other. It is going to be that much harder to kind of lasso it all around, get it all interconnected, and have it all play nice with each other and do that reliably and consistently. So I think that it's just like, all right, period. Just that is I think a probably objectively agreed upon fact. And then that idea of just like the efficiency part, or just it's like this could happen quicker and better if we reckon with this. And then certainly a lot of what you said around resources, financial constraints, or certainly like security concerns, which we're recording this right on kind of the heels of Canvas going down, which is pretty huge. But obviously it's a different thing, but it is just saying like higher ed is not immune. Like
it's a learning moment for all of us. And some schools got it right. They had a plan ahead of time. Columbia, I was reading the other day, as soon as it went down, they had a plan in place. They kicked the plan into action and they moved forward. Other schools were caught dead in their tracks because they hadn't thought about what would our strategy be if this happened. That's one of the things I'm encouraging schools to do, is you just have a plan. Like COVID taught us, just need to have a plan so people aren't freaking out. And Canvas was back up in hours, right? But even for those hours, you can make a lot of crazy decisions because you didn't have a plan.
Yeah, and that's just a good leadership lesson that I remember learning back in college, is like, if you're in a position to be really building a really effective strategy, like it is time well spent to be talking through, like what's the worst case scenario here? What if this goes down? We do not have an LMS for some period of time. Do we just throw our hands up and be like, all right, sorry guys, we just kind of have to cancel everything and we're going to try to figure something out or whatever? Is it being like something then kind of, next in place?
And then you deal with the student impact of that and the mental health issues of that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think wargaming out is so powerful. And the cool thing is, higher ed people, they're smart. They care deeply about the student. If you just give them the opportunity to plan, they'll come up with amazing.
Yeah. So I imagine there would be kind of like a reckoning, or would sort of snap back, anyways, Nathan. But then with the opportunity presented by AI that is driving this work, the necessity of it perhaps, to go that much quicker, because I think it's like, maybe happening anyway, but an idea of like really trying to sort of emphasize how AI is catalyzing this to like move that much quicker, and then like the end results to be, I think, that much more kind of powerful and positive.
No, I think you're spot on. And I think the thing with AI is it just kind of got a life of its own over the last year or two. to where it's not so much something that the institution can, people are doing AI, whether you like it or not, like this, I'm using Claude for this, I'm doing a bot for that. And so it's almost forcing the institution to have a strategy and a plan versus we could take our time. We've got 5 years. We can kind of roll this out. I think we don't have that luxury. Like we have to take control of the system quickly. I'm just at a conference. I'm at a conference now this week, and it's all these mega corporations together. We kind of like to see what's happening in the big world, to higher end.
Mm-hmm.
And the two CEOs there were the CEO of ServiceNow and the CEO of NVIDIA. And they're both saying, well, you literally need AI to watch over AI. Like they're seeing the sprawl of AI agents gone wild, at scale. And yeah, we have to be thinking about all that. And we have to be thinking about it now.
I guess it does sort of set up what I was thinking of next was like the factors that you think would better enable or perhaps hinder these sort of efforts of like, okay, we're in a place, I'm a hired leader, fragmentation, all things like, so it's that idea of like, if they're earnestly wanting to pursue that, how can they move their way? And what are the things that maybe you've seen that sort of like hold person back who earnestly does want to, extract these sort of efforts?
Yeah. It starts with the present. I just wrote a piece for Innovatus, which is the League of Innovation for the Community Colleges. And the title was Presidents, It's Time to Take Change Back. Because presidents are busy. They've kind of had technology change. They've been into the technology office or the HR office. And AI cannot be delegated out. The president has to own this thing for at least the next couple of years. They can delegate tasks, but the vision has to be with them. And I'm finding that when the president owns AI and keeps AI in our office, the silos don't start forming. All the agendas kind of, the president's the only person who can keep all those agendas at bay and bring together. And that leads to my second thought is alignment. Alignment's so important because, again, every department's feeling the pressure to innovate. They're seeing their peers or peer institutions do cool stuff. They're like, we should do it too. But you got to get everyone in the room and say, okay, gang, how are we going to do this well? Let's consider the financial office's concerns. Let's consider the technology office's concerns. Let's vision for what we want for our students. But then let's work backwards from that North Star, which is student success and student outcomes, and say, how do we get there without blowing the ship up in the process, right? And I think getting aligned together is an important piece of the puzzle. And misalignment, I guess, to your point, one of those things that could really get in the way. The president not leading can get in, misalignment can get in the way. And I think that the third thing I'd throw out there for schools to consider is a business case, which answers the question, why? Doing this, why are we doing anything? What is it going to cost? What is it going to take? Who's going to be involved? Because again, it's not just a vision statement of, hey, we want to be AI forward, we want to be ready. Like every strategic plan has that now. But what's the business case for it that would make sense to a board member, the financial officer, the technology officer, the VP of enrollment, the VP of student services? Like, yeah, my piece is in there and it all makes sense. It allows the school to really go after this fragmentation thing and go, yeah, you know what? As much as we want, it's literally not feasible to get to that unified student experience if we have fragmented systems. It's impossible. Technically, impossible. Data lake doesn't matter. With a data warehouse doesn't matter. So, when they do the business case, they kind of go, okay, so we have to solve for that. We have to solve for some other issues. We got to solve budget. We've got to solve for the fact that whatever those issues are, I think a business case can go a long way to getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah, it is sort of, I think with the examples that you gave, like that is just like, those are necessary parts of the equation. They will hold you back. It's not like you would just like, oh, you still move forward. You just forward more slowly. Like I think it would, yeah, because I think what I think of too is, yeah, if the blue for bought in, they, see then struggles to get kind of, the necessary coalition together, the necessary resources or, whatever else. I know sometimes it could be president go, yeah, we got to be, AI ready and all that. Like, and good luck, have fun. All right, bye. Like they do know that they have to do it. They make these big proclamations and everybody else has to kind of scramble to figure out what does that mean? How do we do it? And because it might, require certainly money and perhaps time and a lot of effort, folks. So saying, making that business, getting that justification, I think very, very crucial and very important,
And that's the reason I call it a business case, because there has to be we're going to reduce these costs over 3 years. We're going to divest of certain SaaS to fund our AI. Yeah, for year one, we may have to carry both, but there has to be a roadmap and a strategy where eventually this actually becomes cost neutral or actually cost positive. And there is a case to be made with AI. That's the power of AI, but that has to be built into the business case.
The other thing that I think of is that building AI literacy and all these sort of things, like, just feels like it's endemic at kind of the genesis of the, beginning of this sort of transition, like, is more part of the conversation now that maybe, like, it was in other sort of technology cycles and that sort of thing. I'm just curious, maybe your sort of vibe check on that.
And I think you'll be encouraged, Dustin, to know that every school I've interacted with, they've invested pretty well in that. They've done the work of getting their professors AI literate, their staff AI literate. They're doing workshops, they're doing seminars, they're doing stuff, students. So I think there's an effort going down that path. So hopefully you're encouraged to hear that. It's just a matter of getting the other pieces of the strategy in place so that, we don't find ourselves in a troubling situation 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly what I was saying too. Like, faculty and staff comfortable, lit, proficient, and it's the idea of, all right, now how are we operating with AI, and then teaching with it and about it, and kind of aspects sort of embedded in what I was kind of getting at there. But I think it is definitely reassuring. I find it very refreshing. Where I guess maybe now, like, reflecting some of our past shortcomings, we're
we're
trying to do
better,
a little bit
right?
better this time around. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
So as we wind down, we always like to ask folks, I think you've given a lot of great insights and advice already. So if there's anything that you feel like bears repeating, or any other bits of advice that you would like to give to other higher editors navigating this turbulent, tumultuous moment.
Yeah, I guess, look, the only thing I would say is get advice. Call McKinsey or Deloitte or Huron or, the company that acquired us, Core Education, that specialize. Have some smart people in the room just to kind of do some early ideation. They're probably going to tell you the same things we tell, which is fragmented systems. You got to unify your data. You can't have AI sprawling all over the place. You got to have a single source of truth. But just kind of fact check that and then help people think through that. If you're a mega institution, one of these firms will custom build something for you for $5 million, right? And that may you choose because you want it custom built. Or you've got a platform like Intellicampus that you can just license. Either way, get some advice so you don't end up in the bubble of your institution or even the peer institutions you work with. Even that can be a bubble of sorts. You got to break out of that bubble to get some real good outside input on a good AI strategy, and that'll point you in the right direction, I think.
I like that. It's a very it's a very meta bit of advice from other people, and I think it is very
clarity. Yeah, it brings clarity, and I think that business case and all that kind of stuff will go a long way. As a former consulting guy, me and my team, our consulting time is free because we're a software company now. We're not a consulting company. So again, the tight budget, call us. We'll give you the free advice. But again, don't go this alone would be my number one recommendation.
Yeah, this is what a lot of people have said, acknowledging the need for everybody to become more AI literate, is that it feels like we can all sort of like help each other along. And I think our space is very good at doing that sort of thing. And certainly appreciate folks like yourself that also are explicit about welcoming the opportunity to keep the conversation going. So we'll ways, to connect with you and Intellicampus in the episode description. We'll definitely link out to that article that we're referencing. Folks can check that if they're interested. But I do always, hope in a sort of an existential way that people do reach out, keep the conversation going. So again, I appreciate that you've welcomed that, and I appreciate you for taking time out for the podcast and sharing all that you did.
Yeah, thanks for doing what you do, Dustin.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.